while initially thought that the Chicago Bulls are going to have a fairly quiet offseason waiting to the summer of 2026, recent rumors kind of point towards the Bulls being more willing to make a swing, a calculated one, this offseason. We'll talk about that and why the Bulls could be getting an additional first-round pick sooner than we all thought. We're going to talk about all that, plus the mailbag, right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. And oh, by the way, stay to the end of the episode because I'm about to roast the hell out of somebody. But with that said, I want to talk about the recent rumor. Now, we dropped an episode last night with the rumor from Brett Siegel that came out that the Bulls are prepared to make a swing at Jonathan Kaminga this offseason in restricted free agency. Now, I want everybody to keep in mind, this is kind of, it makes sense a little bit, right? Take away Kuminga and just the focus there. We know that the Bulls did have talks with the Golden State Warriors around Nikola Vučević. The Golden State Warriors, who are prepared to play Game 7 today against the Houston Rockets. Really excited about that game to see how that shakes out. But the Golden State Warriors could be looking to make a move still maybe towards Nikola Vučević, right? And with Jonathan Kuminga and their handling of him, it's all but sure that he's probably going to sign a offer sheet. Whether they match it or not is another thing. So that leaves them up to doing a sign and trade. Now, that does open the door up to a sign and trade with the Chicago Bulls, who do have $19 million in cap space, but if it's a sign and trade, they can give more. Now, there's some restrictions in that, right? Keep in mind, when signing and trading a player that's a restricted free agent specifically, right, only half of their base level compensation goes towards salary matches. So, for example, Nikola Vučević has a $20 million contract, a little bit over that next year. If Jonathan Kaminga were to sign a $25 million contract, for example, only 12.5 of that million would go towards matching Vučevic's salary. Now, the Bulls do have an open roster spot next year, like we've talked about it. Even if they re-sign Josh Giddey with their draft pick, they have one open roster spot. So, theoretically, they could take another player back, right, an additional player back, and not have to send out two. So that could leave a contract, Jonathan Kaminga, Kevon Looney, right, sign and trade to send out Nikola Vučević. Now, what else are the Golden State Warriors going to want in that case, right? Probably a pick compensation, something like that. I know people said, well, can we include P. Will? Can we include Javon Carter? P. Will at making $19 million would mean that they would have to almost include Moses Moody. And with the way that he's playing for them, I don't know, 22 years old, I don't know if they're willing to do that. So you're looking at, if they have to include another player, Kevon Looney is probably the player. Kevon Looney, Jonathan Kaminga, which means that theoretically you could do a straight-up trade for Vooch, right? That's depending on how much money Kaminga signs for. Probably going to sign for more than $25 million. I'm trying to be fair here. Maybe it's $30 million, right? If it is that $30 million contract, then maybe you're looking at Javon Carter and Nikola Vučević, right? Even then, you're still ridding yourself at least of a player, even though they're expiring at the end of the year. Kevon Looney also expires at the end of the year, so no harm, no foul there, but you are taking more money back, right? It's going to be difficult to include P. Will unless they're willing to give up Moses Moody, which I don't think they're willing to do. Keep in mind, Moses Moody also has 3 years left after this deal as well. So with the Bulls looking to still maintain some flexibility in the summer of 26, right? I think Kevon Looney, Kuminga is probably the most likely scenario if you're not doing a one-for-one. So that's what it is. But with that, it does point towards the Bulls being maybe more willing to push their chips in, not completely, right, but to take some calculated risk this offseason than I, for one, initially thought. Now, like I said, this is a calculated risk. I don't think you sign Jonathan Kaminga for the full 5 years that he's going to be eligible for, maybe 3, but with a player option at the end of there, maybe just a straight-up 3, right? That puts Jonathan Kaminga at 25 back and being on the free agency market. He hopefully he's going to, get more shots here than what he did in Golden State. And I'm not here to present Jonathan Kaminga. Like, I personally don't want Jonathan Kaminga here, right? But I do look at it as, if you're moving Vooch, if you're also getting off Javon Carter without having to give up anything as far as draft compensation-wise, taking a shot at a 22-year-old player, okay, right? It is what it is what we've done before. And the Bulls still do have, contrary to people's beliefs, they still do have space there to still go after a max free agent in the summer of 26. So it changes the plan, but it still allows you to keep a lot of that plan around, right? And so maybe Kaminga is the only one, right? When you look at the free agent market, it's not deep. The restricted free agent market is not extremely deep this year. Jonathan Kaminga probably is that one guy. So if the Bulls are willing to do that because of also the previous conversations, so be it, right? That's the way that I look at it. It is the Bulls, doing what they've already said that they've wanted to do and what they're interested in taking on players that are young but have some experience. And so Kaminga would be that. And I think this couldn't happen until after the draft anyway, right? So I want to be clear there. And because it can't happen until after the draft, it means that we know this will kind of be more crystallized once you see what the Bulls do in the draft. So if they draft a center, right, then okay. Going after a player, a wing where you can play modest at the 3 or 4, again, switchable forwards is what we've talked about a lot here. That's kind of where the NBA is going. And then you run into that for the Bulls. So, it makes some sense. There's some questions, of course, about it, but it does make some sense. I'm not, I don't think you're going to sell universally all Bulls fans on any of these players, but I think that as a fundamental kind of baseline plan, it makes some sense. The Bulls still maintain a lot of expiring contracts as well. And there's that part of it too, that they can make other subsequent moves as well if they decide to do so. So, we'll see what happens. Overall, Brett Siegel's somebody who, he's hit or miss, as every reporter is. So don't take it as gospel. Everything's to be taken with a grain of salt. We'll see how it shakes out. If it shakes out great for the Bulls, good. If not, okay, cool. It is what it is, right? We'll see what ends up happening here. But I do think, I don't think this deal gets done because the Bulls only having $19 million in cap space roughly after re-signing Giddey and their first-round pick. I think it has to be a sign and trade. I think that's what it would have to be. But the Nets and the Miami Heat are also circling, and they have a little bit more to where it doesn't necessarily have to be a sign and trade, especially the Nets that can make a big offer. You're talking about just making the largest offer that then the Golden State Warriors would probably not match. That's a team that can definitely offer more than the Bulls. So, we'll see what happens there. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. And the fact that the front office, like I said, if this is what they are kind of planning for, preparing for, and like I said, it could be that it's just the Kaminga thing because of the synergy with Vučević going to Golden State Warriors, or it could mean that they're willing to make a larger swing than initially thought this offseason. Because after AK's comments of patience until 26, kind of painted out this picture that you're not going to see a lot of activity this offseason. But hey, I guess we'll see. But another sign of good news is the Portland Trailblazers. One of the things that I'm asked about the most, right, is Haize, when are we getting the Portland pick? I'm asked about that a lot. And I've said before, it's a pretty straightforward thing. They have to make the playoffs for us to get the pick. Now, not the play-in, it's the playoffs, right? I think that's the clear distinction here. And it has to happen by the 2028 season because that's when that pick turns into a second-round pick instead of the first-round lottery-protected pick, right? Now, when you look at it, the Portland Trailblazers were 3 games behind the Dallas Mavericks for the final play-in spot. And you look at the Portland Trailblazers, they've made some decent moves. They made some decent decisions. Well, their GM, Joe Cronin, said this: we have to get through this transaction window before we talk with certainty, but moving forward, the playoffs are definitely the goal. That's what we're working towards. I think the playoffs are a reasonable expectation. Assuming our guys keep getting better and we do our jobs to keep adding talent to the roster, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be competitive in that regard. Now, every GM is going to say that their goal is to get to the playoffs. No GM is going to come out and say, yeah, you know what? I mean, we'll keep being a bottom 3 team in the conference for the next few years. They're gonna want to try to push that forward, right? But when you look at what they've done here, getting Denny in that trade, right? Drafting Shaedon Sharpe, things like that have kind of gone into the direction that have kind of worked out for that team. Like I said, they won a lot more games than I was expecting next year, and then last year, and then they still have like Anthony Simons is still there, right? Scoot Henderson has been very up and down. You don't know exactly, but if he ever turns it around and just gets consistent, you can see him being a player, maybe, right? Donovan Clingan as a solid starting center they have there, right? So they have some options, right? They still can trade DeAndre Ayton to get more assets to get better, right? those type of players that they can move if they decide to do so. So there's those things that are there. But hearing that the Portland Trailblazers, that they're setting a goal to make the playoffs, that they feel like that's reasonable, seeing as how they want to see how this transaction period goes, to me that sounds like we plan on trying to be active this transaction period. It could mean that the Bulls could be getting an additional first-round pick. It'll be outside the lottery, but they could be getting it where I thought, that pick's probably guaranteed. Like, they basically have 2 years to do it. Can, in 2 years, the Portland Trailblazers be good enough to sneak into the playoffs? That's all we need to do. We don't have to worry about them. We just need them to make it in as the 8th seed. If they do that, we get the pick, right? Doesn't matter what happens in the playoff. They can get absolutely swept. It's just if they make it. And so that's something to also look out for, that, I still don't think the Bulls can bet on it. I don't think you can bet on you can't go forward and say, hey, yeah, we're probably going to have 2 second-round picks in the summer of 26 or 27. I don't think you can do that yet, right? But I do think it is something that in the back of your mind you have to start looking at and saying, all right, what are the chances we're going to get that? And is that additional, especially as the Bulls get better, right? If the Bulls do happen to be a team in the next year or two make the playoffs, which we all hope they're going to do, and then you have 2 right outside the lottery picks, you can package those to move up, right? You can gain some flexibility, use those to include in a deal for somebody else. Like, that's where you start getting into the minutia of things. But, that would also mean that AK and Eversley are going to start operating like an actual front office that's aggressive. And maybe we're starting to see a little bit of that. I can't say it for sure yet, but maybe we're starting to see that. We'll see. But all right, let's go ahead and get into the voicemails for today. It is Sunday. It is mailbag day. This one's from Corn.
What's the word, King Drip? It's your brother Corn, man. Let's get right into it, man. I want to talk about, because I know we in draft time right now. I don't know if you're going to talk about him. I don't even know if you're going to. But I know how much you cover the draft, but I want to bring up my guy that I think that's we shouldn't pick in the first round, but a guy that probably, I hope, praise, because just how deep this class is, that he can fall to us in the second round. And I brought him up before, and his name is Hugo Gonzalez. 6'6", 207 pounds, 19 years old, man. A scorer out this wing lane, man. His game, man. I don't want to say it reminds me of Ginobili or any other them type of Spanish Euro League type players, right? I'm gonna say his game is more like a Jamal Murray type, like scoring type. You know what I mean? He could develop into that. I could see that with Hugo Gonzalez. Good passer, good vision, okay defender. Somebody I thought that was going to be a lottery. But now, how really special this class is, really, I could see him falling in the second round, and I know AK, and we always get them second round picks right. So I hope that he falls to the second, and I hope that we get Hugo Gonzalez, man. Watch this kid, man. If y'all don't know yet, man. Spanish kid out of Real Madrid, man, Euro League. I'm trying to believe what's the other league he played in. If I'm not for sure, but it doesn't matter, man. Just look this kid up, man. This kid he could be something. He could be something. Something to add. And the ACB, ACB. So everybody know Euro League, ACB are the 2 best leagues right after the NBA. So shout out to him, man. Shout out to you, King Drip, man. Let's hope, man, and let's hope that this kid falls to us, man. I hope he does. All right, now, blessings, C-Red.
Hugo Gonzalez, bro, I agree with you. Hugo, he was a player that you initially put me on. I've done a lot. I watched him a lot this season. He's one of the reasons why I even subscribed to EuroLeague's version of League Pass this year. Not the complete reason, but he was one of the reasons that I did that, right? To be able to look at him And listen, he had tremendous prospect, and I still would not be surprised if he turns out to be one of the better players in this draft. I just wouldn't. International players they can either be overvalued or sometimes undervalued, and I think he's one that's being a little bit undervalued. Now, as far as him in the second round, I doubt he falls to where the Bulls don't pick till the middle of the second round. I highly doubt he's going to fall that low into the second round. If he goes to the second round, I think he'd be one of the first 5 players taken in the second round of that draft, so I doubt he's going to be there. I don't think he's even going to make it in the second round. I don't think he makes it past OKC or Orlando at 24 and 25, to be honest. Like, you look at OKC and the type of players that they draft, he fits that mold, right? Also gives them tremendous upside, which, again, something that they like, two-way player. And Orlando, they need offensive upside. What does he bring? Offensive upside, and he's no slouch defensively. So I don't think he makes it past those two teams if they hold on to those draft picks and stay in that spot. I could be wrong, right? But I don't think he makes it past those two spots personally. Maybe even Boston at 28, right? Tremendous upside with Hugo. You look at that bench. So, Phoenix there at 29 as well. Like, they need the most upside that they can get. So I don't know if he makes it to the second round. And if he does, I highly doubt he makes it to where the Bulls pick in the second round, unless they want to get aggressive about moving up like they did for Julian Phillips. But Hugo as a player, I really like him as a player. And we'll see where the chips fall. All right, but let's get into this next one. This one's from Ed.
Yo, what up, Haize? This is Ed. My question for you is, if we can't get Derek Queen or Kaminga Malawat with the 12th pick, or whatever pick we get, do you think Danny Wolf is a good pick? I know you say his defense ain't all that, but he's 7 foot and he do good at rebounding and blocking shots. So add that with everything he do offensively, I think it's a good pick. What you think? Oh yeah, and before I get off here, do you think we should trade Coby White if we can get something better? Let me know.
Danny Wolf at 12 is the problem, right? Like, I don't think that anybody's going to draft Danny Wolf at number 12. I think in the mid-20s is where he offers the most value at. Yes, we do need a center, but I also think that the Bulls aren't going to hesitate to go best player available, which could mean that even if the best player isn't a center, I can't count them out for taking that player. So, and I also think that there are going to be centers with way higher upside there at number 12 than Danny Wolf. Again, not to knock. I said it in another episode. Like, I like Danny Wolf as a prospect. I just don't know if he brings the rim protection, the switchability defensively, the ability to get out and run. Those are the things that the Bulls are really looking for at their center position. So I don't know if all those other centers are gone at 12, if he's going to be the pick. But we'll see, right? I mean, we'll see. Maybe AK looks at it differently. Like I said, some of our best defense came with Zach Collins on the court. Zach Collins is none of those things I just mentioned. So you never know, right? I'm not counting anything out. Now, as far as the trade of Coby, I think you only trade Coby in one of two scenarios. One, you are pretty sure he's not going to re-sign with you in the next offseason. You have that inclination. I think then you move him. Or if you're moving up in the draft to clearly get one of the guards, right? That's the case when it comes down to it. And I don't know if those options are going to be. I don't know if Coby and the 12th are enough to do that. So I still want to see Coby here. I still think the most likely scenario is Coby is going to be here. But I'm not going to count it out as a possibility, right? Anything's possible. So we'll see what ends up happening there. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Reginald just calling back after your update that the Bulls are looking into Kaminga. And I'm not really all right with that pursuit, if I'm being honest. When I look at the type of player the Bulls need, it's one of those guys who can do all the little things right. And when I think of the type of player, I think back to, I'm getting a little off topic, but someone like Robert Williams. Back when he was in Boston, I remember the Bulls were playing him. It was the fourth quarter. And Robert Williams got the ball in his hands, and some idiot fouled him, like, behind the arc for no damn reason. And he had to make at least 2 of his free throws in order to tie the game and 3 to win. And this was back when Marcus Smart and all of them were still on it. on that team, but he went up to the line. It was in Chicago, and he drained all 3 of his free throws like it was nothing. It was a touch play that proved that he had it in him. And I was just watching like, wow, that guy would look great in a Bulls uniform, but there's no way Boston would ever trade him. You know, like a year later they did. But my point is, when I look at Kaminga, he's a forward in Golden State who's been around some of the best shooters possibly in the history of the game, and he struggles from the free throw line. If I'm an opposing coach, if the game's on the line with under like 4 minutes, I'm fouling Kuminga. Because more often than not, he's going to only make one of those shots. And if the Bulls are hot, that's a plus for me because I cool them off and I give my team more opportunities to win. And like I said, if the deal they do involves giving up Carter and Patrick Williams, then hey, I'm not going to say no to it. But I know that's not what that deal is going to be. Because come on, we'll take P. Will and Carter for Kaminga. That's never going to happen. But the little things matter. Being able to hit your free throws, being consistent beyond the arc, playing above average defense so you can be on the court at all times. Those things matter. But what's your opinion? Thanks.
Good call out on the free throw shooting percentage of Jonathan Kuminga. That's a good call out. But I will say this: it's not like we haven't seen teams with play like look at the Rockets with Steven Adams, the hacker Adams, right? Like it happens. It is what it is. But I think if you're taking Kuminga, it's for the upside. And no player is going to be perfect at taking a swing that if they were that, they wouldn't be available in restricted free agency. Again, I'm not the highest on the Kuminga thing. I can understand it. That doesn't mean that I love it, right? So we'll end up seeing what happens there. But I think the Kuminga thing overall, you're just looking at the Bulls maybe trying to make the best of a situation of a team that could be, we still don't know, could be interested in Vooch. And then you're just trying to take advantage of it. And like I said, if you are including P. Will in that move or in that deal, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at 3 or 4 years of Jonathan Kaminga versus 4 more years of P. Will. I'm just not mad at that. So, we'll end up seeing what happens though, Reggie. Great call out though in the free throw shooting. That was a really great call out. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Haize? It's Shay. Look, everybody has, and I know you probably thinking of, go best available, but I feel like a big man is really the best available because, hey, you don't know what we could get for Zach Collins. I mean, we probably could get something for Vučević, but I look at it like this. If a guy like Thomas Server, Ace Bailey, or Ace Anua, whatever his name is, or a center, that's the best that can block shots. That's the type of center that I think we need. One, a lob threat and a shot blocker and a rebounder, because I feel like that, we have a lot of forwards, and unless we're planning on trading Coby White, we should look to get a center. That's just my opinion. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
We need all those things. Make no mistake about it. We need all those things. And I don't think anybody's going to deny the fact that center is one of the Bulls' biggest needs this offseason. And if they do, they're crazy, right? But I will say this. I never put it above AK to go best player available. I just don't, right? The Bulls having 5 or 6 players, I think it is, under contract in the summer of 26, you really can't say what the fit is going to be at that time. And maybe that's the route they're going to look at it. So we don't know, right? I think that really opens the door to them doing a lot of things that maybe we don't necessarily expect on paper. But then again, I'm not saying that that's for sure either. I would love the Bulls to get a center. I think it's the clear need that we have on this roster. It clearly helps the way that we play if you can get a switchable big, all those type of things. So I think all the needs that you list there are absolutely correct. But also the Bulls need talent. And so if they go best player available and that player works out and they got to figure out some things later, it is still a scenario there as well, Shay. So we'll end up seeing how it shakes out. But great call out there. All right, let's get into the last voicemail where I'm about to cook. This one's from Ricky Carroll.
First of all, Mr. Haize, this is Ricky Carroll. That ugly ass picture you had up there I guess I call me speaking, I look a lot better than that, bro. Matter of fact, I look a lot better than you. So let's get on the point about basketball. I only watched 2 games because I didn't want to watch Billy ass. You know, you can't talk regular to you guys, you know, and talk with some decency without that cursing stuff. And I don't talk like that, but back to the game, you know, anytime you have a losing season over and over and over and you still got a damn job when you lose a game by 17 games by 4 or 5 points or less than 4 minutes on the clock. You see, y'all jump. You're doing good, you're doing bad. You know, if they're doing good, you're riding their ass. As soon as they get to mess up, y'all jump ship. I know about ball basketball than I don't forget more than you know, bro. You don't have to watch the Bulls to know where they're going. And I don't give a damn who the Bulls bring in. As long as Billy is the coach of the Chicago Bulls, they ain't got a damn thing coming. I'm the first one started telling you about that bullshit that the Bulls doing. So, man, don't pretend like you got everything on. You know, I try to talk to you about basketball. And first of all, I'm pissed off at that old man you got. I'm 72 years old, bro, and I look a whole lot better than that shit. And I know a whole lot about this game than you will ever think of. I just decided not to get on here and have no mistake with you. I get disrespectful talking about people's mama and stuff. How I look talking about somebody's mama, I'm 77 years old. Or having somebody talk about my mama and she's gone. Man, get your shit together, bro. And stop trying to make fun of people. You ain't always right. I wish I had one of them machines. I can show you a lot of goddamn times you was wrong. But you stay 50-50 in the middle. You won't say yeah, you won't say no. You stay in the middle. So your ass is covered. Peace.
All right, so first off, let's attack this. You said that we jump ship if the Bulls are bad. I've been a Bulls fan for 38 years. They've been bad the majority of that time of my life. Stop projecting, right? Stop trying to have a point to say something. Like, it's clear that the picture, it hurts your feelings. And that's okay to embrace the hurt, my boy, because your feelings are about to be hurt even more than that. You can't even stay on topic. You know what's the laziest thing to do in sports is to say, hey, this isn't going to work out, and then think you're doing something when most things in the NBA don't work out, right? It's just like when players are drafted and they're like, oh, you're probably never win a title with that guy. That's the easiest thing to say because most players don't win titles, right? So it's the easiest thing to say. It's a lazy comparison. As somebody who's trying to say that they know more about basketball, you would think that you would be able to talk about things more intelligently and stay in a comprehensive spot on topic than just rambling and sounding like a drunk fucking idiot, right? Secondly, never said anything about your mama. Thirdly, cussing. I'm going to curse. It is what it is. It's Chicago. Secondly, nobody talked anything about, if you can't even stay on the topic of your own voicemail. The problem wasn't Billy Donovan. You said you only watched 2 games, but you were trying to make an analysis about how the players played on the court, you fucking dumbass. Like, do you not understand the difference in that? You could talk about Billy not being a good coach. Great. That doesn't take very much analysis. We all know Billy is a very limited coach. But when you try to leave a voicemail to talk about the way and style that the players are playing on the court, right, what they're working on and things like that, and you watch 2 games, you can't do that intelligently, you 72-year-old dumbass, if you're trying to have a conversation and you only watch 2 games. So how about, first of all, stay on context, comprehend what's actually being said, get out your fucking feelings. That's the second thing, or the third thing at this point, and just be smart. If you're such a smart analyst and you know so much more about basketball than everybody else, then actually call in with a basketball conversation, give a basketball topic, give something that's an actual analysis of the game of basketball, and then we can stay focused on that. But when you call in sounding like a 72-year-old whining woman, and then you want to say that I know more about basketball, you don't. You're crying, right? And you really sound like you just took a bottle of R&R and Mad Dog 2020 to the face before you left that voicemail. Don't come in here talking about no dumb shit because you will absolutely get cooked. And guess what? I did it all without bringing up your mama. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.